The storm rolls over the city with a kind of authority that silences everything else. The skyscrapers look like jagged shadows cutting through the lightning, their glass faces slick with rain. The streets glisten, rivers forming at the edges of sidewalks. Neon signs flicker, half drowned in the downpour, and traffic crawls with headlights blurred into streaks of white. Through it all, a sleek black sedan moves steadily, engine humming with power. Inside, Ethan Cole sits alone behind the wheel, his suit jacket still sharp despite the storm. Most nights, someone else drives for him, but not tonight. Tonight, he doesn't want anyone in his space, doesn't want the steady chatter of assistants or the presence of bodyguards watching his every move. The city feels heavier than usual, and solitude seems like the only shield left. He grips the steering wheel tighter than he needs to, knuckles pale against the dark leather. His jaw clenches as his eyes dart between the road and the streams of water hitting his windshield. Wipers squeal in rhythmic desperation, barely keeping pace with the torrent. Ethan doesn't notice how his shoulders are hunched forward, how his chest rises with uneven breaths. On the surface, he is the perfect image of control, a CEO who bends markets, commands boardrooms, shapes headlines. But beneath the polish is something restless, something that won't stay buried no matter how many skyscrapers bear his name. As he slows at a red light, a flicker of movement draws his eyes away from the glowing traffic signals. There, pressed against a lamppost, is a tiny figure. A girl, no older than 7, standing barefoot on the drenched pavement. Her hair sticks in wet strands against her face, her clothes clinging to her thin frame. In her small hand is a teddy bear, worn thin with age, its fur darkened by rain. She doesn't step forward. She doesn't wave. She simply stares at him, her eyes wide, unblinking, as if willing him to see more than the surface of what's there. Ethan feels the weight of that gaze. It's not the gaze of a child hoping for spare change or food. It's deeper, steadier, like she's carrying a truth too heavy for someone her size. The light shifts green, urging him forward, but his foot stays planted. For reasons he can't explain, he lowers the window. Cold rain and city noise rush in, filling the quiet luxury of his car with something raw, unfiltered. His pulse kicks against his ribs. Then her lips move. The voice is soft, almost drowned by the storm, but it reaches him anyway. 6 words, delivered without hesitation, sliced through the night like a knife. "Sir, she's too weak to beg." Ethan blinks, startled, certain he misheard. But the girl isn't looking at him now. She turns her face past the car, toward the darkness of a narrow side street. Her small arm lifts, finger trembling as it points into the alley beyond the glow of the traffic light, into the shadows that wait between broken walls and dripping gutters. The rain narrows into rivulets as Ethan steps out of the car, the door slamming behind him louder than he intends. Cold water soaks through his polished shoes immediately, a reminder that this is not the kind of place he belongs. His empire is built in glass towers and climate-controlled offices, not in alleyways where shadows twist and drip like secrets waiting to be uncovered. The little girl doesn't hesitate. She grips her teddy bear tighter and moves toward the darkness, her small frame cutting a determined path through the sheets of rain. Ethan follows, though every instinct tells him he shouldn't. He should get back in the car, lock the doors, and disappear into the safety of his penthouse walls. But his legs keep moving, slow but deliberate, pulled by something he can't name. The alley yawns before him, narrow and damp, lined with brick walls crumbling under decades of neglect. Graffiti stretches in jagged colors across the surfaces, and trash bags slump against metal bins that overflow with rainwater. The smell is sour, rotted food, gasoline, mildew, and it sticks in his throat with each breath. The girl pauses halfway in, glancing back at him as though testing whether he'll follow through. Her eyes glint with something that is not fear. It is urgency, maybe desperation, but carried with a strange confidence. She lifts her chin, almost daring him to stop now. Ethan tightens his jaw and takes another step forward, water splashing underfoot. Thunder cracks overhead, the sound bouncing off the walls, amplifying the claustrophobic press of the alley. He pulls his coat tighter, though it does little to shield him from the storm. His phone is in his pocket. He thinks of calling the police, of handing this situation to someone trained for it. But his hand doesn't reach for it. He knows instinctively that this girl hasn't chosen him by accident. At the far end of the alley, half hidden behind stacks of old cardboard, sits a car that doesn't belong to this decade. Its paint is chipped to dull metal, the license plate rusted, the tires half deflated. The windows are fogged from within, as though the car itself is breathing faintly in the shadows. The girl walks faster now, her bare feet splashing through puddles. She stops at the back of the car, pressing her tiny palms flat against the trunk. Rain trickles down her arms, soaking the teddy bear clutched against her side, but she doesn't shiver. She looks at Ethan, her voice carrying above the storm with steady conviction. She's inside. Ethan's pulse thunders in his ears. His chest tightens as he approaches, the reality of what he might find tightening its grip around his lungs. He tells himself he shouldn't touch it, shouldn't get involved. But he's already moving, his hand lifting toward the rusted latch of the trunk, his breath sharp, uneven, caught between dread and the metal groans when Ethan pulls at the latch, stiff from years of rust and neglect. The sound slices through the storm, too loud in the narrow alley, echoing like a warning he can't ignore. His pulse hammers in his ears, every instinct screaming to stop, to walk away, to pretend none of this exists. But the girl's eyes pin him in place, steady and unrelenting, as though she already knows he won't. The trunk creaks open. The smell hits him first, a stale blend of gasoline, damp fabric, and something sour that twists his stomach. His hand trembles slightly against the lid as the shadows inside take shape. At first, he sees nothing but a heap of blankets and scraps of cardboard. Then, slowly, the outline sharpens. A woman, curled into herself like a child, her arms wrapped around her torso as if holding herself together. Her face is pale, skin drawn tight over delicate bones. Her lips are cracked, a faint bluish tint at the edges. Each shallow breath she takes seems like it could be the last, her chest rising barely enough to disturb the ragged blanket covering her. Damp strands of dark hair cling to her forehead, plastered there by sweat or rain. Ethan can't tell which. The little girl kneels at once, pushing her teddy bear against the woman's shoulder as if its presence could shield her from the cold. She brushes the hair gently from the woman's face with tiny fingers. "Mama," she whispers, her voice trembling but sure. "I found someone. I brought help." Ethan's throat tightens. The scene feels like something torn out of a nightmare. Except it's real, happening right here, inches from him. He swallows hard, but his mouth is dry, words sticking like ash. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't demand explanations. Instead, his eyes search the woman's fragile body for signs of life, terrified at what he might not find. The girl looks up at him, her small frame crouched protectively over her mother. She's sick. She couldn't walk anymore. I tried to make her eat, but she's too weak." Her words tumble out quickly, not with panic, but with the desperation of someone who has already rehearsed them countless times, waiting for the right person to hear. Ethan feels the air shift around him. The weight of the storm outside dulls compared to the storm unraveling inside his chest. This isn't charity. This isn't chance. This is a reckoning he doesn't understand yet. His hands hover uselessly at his sides. He wants to reach in, to lift the woman out immediately, but fear knots in his gut. Fear that his touch might break her. Fear that he isn't enough. Fear that this moment demands something greater than what he knows how to give. The girl's voice slices through his hesitation. "You can help, can't you?" Her eyes bore into him, wide, fierce, unwilling to accept silence. They don't carry the innocence of a child asking a stranger for kindness. They carry the command of someone who has no other choice, who has placed all her faith into this one impossible night, into the man who now stands caught between. Rain lashes against Ethan's back as he bends closer to the trunk, every drop like a drumbeat urging him to act. His expensive suit is ruined, water soaking through the fabric, but he doesn't notice anymore. All he sees is the fragile woman inside, her chest rising and falling like a candle flame about to go out. The little girl hovers protectively, her teddy bear pressed to her mother's shoulder, eyes wide with expectation that burns hotter than any boardroom spotlight he's ever faced. Ethan's breath shakes as he slides his arms beneath the woman. She feels impossibly light, as though she's been hollowed out by hunger and exhaustion, her weight no more than the burden of his conscience pressing against his ribs. Her head lolls against his chest, damp hair soaking through his shirt. He can feel the faint flutter of her heartbeat, a rhythm so fragile it terrifies him more than any hostile takeover ever has. "Hold her steady," he mutters to the girl, though the words sound hoarse, foreign on his own tongue. The child doesn't hesitate. She clutches her mother's arm, nodding fiercely, as though she's been waiting for this moment of rescue her entire short life. Ethan carries the woman to his car, the storm washing over them in sheets. Every step feels heavier, not because of her weight, but because of the questions crashing against his mind. Who is she? Why here? Why like this? And why does it feel like this moment is unraveling the very foundation he's built his empire on? The sedan's interior, once pristine, now becomes a lifeline. He lays the woman gently across the back seat, the leather darkening with water and grime. For the first time in years, he doesn't care about the cost. He only cares about the shallow sound of her breathing and the tiny hand of the girl gripping the edge of his coat, refusing to let him move without her. He climbs into the driver's seat, his fingers trembling as they grip the wheel. The rearview mirror catches the girl's reflection. She sits upright, clutching her teddy bear with one arm and her mother's limp hand with the other. Her eyes meet his in the glass, unflinching, demanding, as though she's silently measuring him against every broken promise adults have ever made to her. Thunder booms overhead. Ethan turns the key, the engine roaring to life. He presses harder on the accelerator than he means to, the tires splashing through rivers that flood the streets. His chest feels like a cage, every beat of his heart slamming against the bars. He tells himself he's just taking them to a hospital, just doing the bare minimum, just fixing what's right in front of him. But the truth sinks deeper with every mile. This isn't just a rescue. This is a choice. One that carries consequences he doesn't yet understand. One that stretches far beyond the stormy streets unfolding before him. One that ties his life irreversibly to theirs, whether he wants it or. The fluorescent lights of the emergency ward glare like an interrogation, stripping away every layer of control Ethan has ever worn. Nurses rush forward the moment he pulls up, wheeling the frail woman away on a gurney. The little girl clings to his sleeve until the last possible moment, then stumbles after them, her wet sneakers squeaking against polished linoleum floors. Ethan follows too, his presence awkward, out of place, yet impossible to withdraw from. The sterile smell of antiseptic bites at his senses. Voices rise and fall around him, orders shouted, machines beeping, rubber soles squealing across tiles, but they blur together into a hollow hum. He finds himself pacing the waiting area, unable to sit. His expensive watch feels like a shackle on his wrist, every tick a reminder of the minutes dragging by. His tie hangs loose, shirt clinging uncomfortably to his skin. None of it matters. What matters is what lies beyond the double doors, in a room he isn't allowed to enter. The little girl sits in a chair nearby, her teddy bear perched stiffly in her lap. She doesn't fidget. She doesn't cry. Her stillness unnerves him, as though she's learned that tears don't change anything. Every so often, she glances toward the swinging doors, her small hands tightening on the bear's frayed limbs, as if daring the universe to take her mother away. Hours blur. Ethan rubs at his temples, exhaustion gnawing at him, though he knows he can't leave. Finally, the doors push open, and a doctor steps out, his expression grave but not hopeless. Ethan straightens instantly. "She'll live," the doctor says, voice clipped, professional. Relief surges through Ethan's chest, but it lasts only seconds before the man continues. "She's malnourished, severely dehydrated. Weeks, maybe months, of neglect. We'll stabilize her, but recovery will be long." Ethan nods stiffly, already reaching for his wallet, ready to pay whatever cost is required. But then the doctor pauses, his eyes narrowing as he studies Ethan's face. "Do you know her?" The question makes Ethan's pulse jolt. He shakes his head, slow, careful. The doctor hesitates, then lowers his voice. "Her name is Marissa Hale. She used to work at one of your factories. Years ago, Cole Enterprises." His words are measured, but they land like blows. There was a collapse. She was injured, laid off. No compensation, no support. The hallway tilts. Ethan grips the edge of a chair, his knuckles whitening. His name, his company, hanging in the air like a sentence passed down by a judge. He remembers reports, signatures, numbers shuffled across desks. But behind those numbers was a face. This face. The little girl looks up at him then, eyes sharp, searching, as though she already knows what the doctor has just said. Her gaze slices deeper than the words themselves, accusing and pleading all at once. Ethan's throat tightens, his chest a knot of shame and disbelief. He tells himself it can't be true, that this is coincidence, that she's someone else entirely. But deep down he knows. He knows he is standing face to face with the cost of his own decisions, and that the girl holding the teddy bear is carrying the weight of everything he once signed away without. The hospital corridor is quieter now, the storm outside fading into a distant murmur against the windows. Dawn creeps through narrow panes of glass, painting the sterile walls with a pale glow. Ethan sits in a plastic chair, shoulders hunched, his tailored suit a shadow of the authority it once commanded. Beside him, the little girl has finally drifted to sleep, her teddy bear tucked beneath her chin, her head resting against his arm as though she trusts him more than she should. He doesn't move. He doesn't dare. Her warmth against him feels like an anchor in a world suddenly unmoored. Every tick of the clock reminds him how close he came to driving past, how close he came to leaving them in the rain. And the thought claws at him. If she hadn't spoken, if he hadn't stopped, this girl might have been sitting alone by a body cooling in the back of a rusted car. The sound of footsteps draws his eyes up. The doctor approaches, clipboard in hand, his face softer now. She's stable, he says, lowering his voice out of respect for the child asleep beside him. It'll take time, but with care and resources, she can recover. Ethan nods, relief pressing against his chest. But relief is tangled with guilt, heavy and raw. The name Marissa Hale echoes through his mind like a verdict. She isn't a stranger. She is a victim of his empire, one of the thousands whose stories were buried under contracts, whose pain was reduced to a number on a ledger. When he finally steps into the hospital room, the sight freezes him. Marissa lies pale against the white sheets, tubes feeding her body the strength it no longer has. Her eyes flutter open, hazy with exhaustion, but when they land on him, something sharp cuts through the haze. Recognition. Her lips part, dry and trembling, but she manages a single word. Not sir. Not Mr. Cole. Just his name. Ethan. It hits harder than any headline, harder than any corporate betrayal. His name on her lips is not respect. It is memory. It is accusation. It is the weight of a past he can't rewrite. Shame surges, so fierce it steals his breath. For the first time in his life, he has no defense, no speech, no power to shield himself. He lowers his head, his voice cracking. I failed you. Her eyes glisten, but she says nothing. The silence between them is enough. Behind him, the little girl stirs, rubbing her eyes before climbing onto the bed, nestling close to her mother's side. She doesn't look at Ethan with anger or fear. She simply looks at him with expectation, the same steady gaze she gave him in the rain. A demand without words. What will you do now? And in that moment, Ethan understands. Money isn't enough. A donation, a check, a press release won't erase this. What they need, what she needs, is presence. A man who will take responsibility, not just for one night, but for every day that follows. He grips the edge of the bed, his voice steady now. I'll make it right. Both of you. Starting today. For the first time in years, Ethan Cole, the CEO who built towers of glass and steel, feels the weight of something greater than profit. Compassion, responsibility, humanity. The storm outside has passed, but inside this room, a new life begins, not just for Marissa and her daughter, but for the man who finally learned that the most powerful choice isn't found in contracts or boardrooms. It's found in the moment you decide to stop walking past